pay us to think. They pay us to know. We know we can beat them. There's no excuses why we shouldn't. Win the game, period. W is on 3, man. Let's go. W on 3. 1, 2, 3, W.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report, week number 8 edition. And we family, right? We family. We all family. We all part of the burgundy and gold tribe. And so I'm not going to lie to you guys because we family. I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. I'm still on cloud 9 and I need to come down. I got to bring my ass down back to earth because we got a game on Sunday that we got to get, and we can't afford to be so euphoric over what we did in week number 7 that we ignore the elephant in the room that is the New York Giants in the Meadowlands, a place that we struggle year in and year out. Yes, they're 1-6. Yes, they stink, but it's family business and you know how to family do it. So we're going to get to the Giants and talk about what we need to do to make sure we come away with the victory and move to 5-2 on the season. But before we do any of that, we do need to rejoice in what happened on Sunday because it doesn't happen often enough. We beat the Dallas Cowboys 20-17. A lot of things transpired in that game to allow us to come out on top. We'll talk about all of that and then some tonight. And I was inspired by the boys tonight. So it's a little bit of a different show, a couple of new segments that you've never seen before here on the Redskins Report. And so I was inspired by the performance of the fellas on Sunday, and there was a lot of good from that game. There was a lot of bad too, and we'll get to all of it tonight. But in any event, I've got some new segments tonight in store for you guys. And so as a matter of fact, I want to jump into one of those right now. I told you about my dad and my sisters going to the game. Well, there's a story behind that, and I think it's a perfect time to introduce Redskins Story Time.
And the kick is, it hits the upright, no good. Washington wins it.
So I told you guys that my dad and my sisters both went to, or all three of them went to the game on Sunday, and it was my dad's first Redskins Cowboys game in person, and it was my sisters, both of them, their first games in general. And my sister gave me the lowdown on how the whole situation unfolded, and I thought it was such a great story, and it was so funny. I thought it'd be nice to share it with you guys since we all family, right? So my dad goes to the game, and I don't know what he was expecting because you're in enemy territory. And I know, and I told you what my dad always says. We got 2 houses. Your house is our house is our house. And again, my dad is from the Virgin Islands, so there's a little bit of an accent there if you can imagine. So he always tells me that the Cowboys have 2 houses. Our house and their house both belong to them and that they own us. So I think he was walking in with the expectation. Same thing can be said for my sister, my oldest sister, who is also a Cowboys fan. I think the expectation was that they were going to walk into FedEx and it was going to be 60-40 Cowboys fans over Redskins fans. Now, why they would think that, I don't know. I think I kind of poisoned their brain because I told them that the Redskins, in terms of attendance, had fallen on hard times. I mean, Chris Cooley was out at the mall giving away free tickets to Redskins Cowboys. That's how bad it's been this season. And I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the fact that the fans have put their foot down and said, enough with the nonsense. If you're not going to give us a product that we can get behind, we're not coming to the games. But you had to know that they were going to show up for Redskins Cowboys. And so when they first got to the game, they were excited and they saw a bunch of Cowboys fans. But as the game started, as the game neared, all the Redskins fans flocked into the stadium and took over the joint. And so my sister said it was more along the lines of 60-40, even maybe 65-35 Redskins at the game. But nonetheless, there were more Redskins fans than Cowboys fans, as it should be. The Redskins were at home. Nonetheless, my dad was consistently heckled by a guy named Joe. So big ups to Joe for heckling my dad the entire game. Joe was drunk. He said as much. and he had been liquored up. And remember, this was a 4:25 start, so Joe had been getting it in since noon. Had this been a 1 o'clock start, maybe Joe isn't as lathered, but Joe was liquored up, nice and ready to go for the show because the game started at 4:25. And so my dad had to take the abuse that Joe was giving him all game long, and I loved it. And so Joe was giving it to him. I mean, working him over, giving him work all day long. And my dad is one of those guys. My sister, she's going to sit there and take it because she's passive aggressive. However, my father, not the same can be said for him. He's a very confrontational person. When you push him to that point, he's not going to back down from an altercation. So, of course, he was jawing back and forth with Joe and some of the other Redskin fans that surrounded him at the game. And, of course, when things weren't going his way, my dad was upset. Of course, the first fumble by Dak Prescott, he was upset. The second fumble, he was upset. That led to the Redskins taking a 20-10 lead. But in typical Cowboys-Redskins fashion, the game was not over. The Cowboys made a run. My dad started to run his trap again. And so they got down the field. They got into field goal range. And my dad thought they were going to tie the game and ultimately win this game because that's what the Cowboys do to the Redskins. They break our hearts every single time. So he didn't think this was any different. He thought that they were going to knock the field goal home, send the game to overtime, and ultimately beat us. And he was telling them that as much. And so when the field goal clanked off of the upright, my dad proceeded to yell at my sisters, "Come on, let's go. Let's get out of here." And before Joe could turn around, because as we all were celebrating feverishly, Joe didn't realize that my dad had not only vacated his seat, but my dad had already vacated the stadium before Joe could turn around and stick it to him once more. One and final time, stick it to him. They were already gone. My sisters were like, my dad got out of there so fast, and he was so belligerent. He was running people over, getting out of the stadium because everyone was so jubilant that the Redskins had been victorious. And again, the Cowboys fans continued to say over and over again, you guys don't know how to win. You guys don't know how to win, because the Redskins fans were treating this game like a Super Bowl. And essentially, for a lot of fans, not myself, I can't say that this was the Super Bowl. It felt really good, but I'm not one of those fans. And there are a number of fans out there that are delusional that will say the stupidest thing that I think I've ever heard. And they're serious when they say this. I don't care if the Redskins go 2-14 as long as those 2 wins are against Dallas. I'm good. That is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard. I'd much rather the Redskins go 14-2 and lose both games to Dallas than go 2-14 and beat Dallas 2 times. But in any event, Redskins fans were excited, as they should have been. And so they kept giving it to all the Cowboys fans. So naturally, my sisters and my dad parked somewhere where they couldn't remember where the hell they parked, because they had never been to the stadium before. And so they were walking back to the car trying to figure out where the hell they had parked their vehicle. And on the way to the vehicle, my dad had put his hood on, because the only trace of cowboy paraphernalia that he had on that you could see visually was his hat. His jersey was zipped up in a jacket because it was pretty chilly out. And his hat, you could see it. But when he was on the way to the car, smart as he is, he put his hood on and zipped it up tight so that people driving by, because they were heckling, they being Redskins fans, were heckling Cowboys fans on the way to their car. Redskins fans in their cars were stopping, rolling down the windows, and at one point a guy actually stopped in the middle of traffic, got out of the car, and proceeded to berate Cowboys fans and tell them just how sorry they are. And my sister, a Falcons fan, she could do anything but laugh because it was so hilarious to her, and she had never been in an environment like this before. And so my dad, all he could do was keep a straight face, keep it straight and narrow, and keep searching for the car. He didn't once try to help out a fellow Cowboy fan in distress. He kept it moving, and I loved every second of this story, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. My dad was pissed leaving the stadium, so much so that when they finally found the car, when they talked about the game for about 5 minutes, he said, "That's enough. I don't want to talk about the game anymore." I wish I could have been there for that moment, because when I asked him about this, I'm pretty sure he's going to tell me that this thing went totally opposite of what was told to me. He's going to act as if he was calm the whole time, as if he wasn't mad. I know my dad, and I know how he's going to try to play this, but I know the truth. And now, so do you. This has been Redskins Story Time with your man, Louie T. Redskins bow and go. So we move on to the bow and go segment of the show, and we got to put a bow on this Cowboys victory. And there's so much to talk about here, but we must move on. So let's talk about this game. There were so many different layers to this football game, and I want to try to get to as much as I can in a short amount of time. I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be. So let's jump into this game, shall we? I look at this game. Let's start on the defensive side of the football because that's where this game was won. You could argue that we won this game in spite of the offense, more specifically Alex Smith. We'll get to him a little bit later on, but defensively, this might have been the most impressive game of the season. Throw the Arizona game out because I even told you before the season started that the Arizona Cardinals were going to be trash this year and that win, albeit impressive, wasn't going to matter much in the grand scheme of things. You weren't going to be able to really use that as any kind of litmus test as to how good or bad the Redskins were going to be this year because the Cardinals were going to stink. Had we lost that game, maybe that would have been a sign that the Redskins aren't going to be very good, but we won that game convincingly. But I said all of that to say this. This was the most impressive defensive performance of the season. Why? Because for the first time this season, with conviction, and I know why he had conviction, our defensive coordinator, Greg Minuski, blitzed. And blitzed often because he didn't respect the Cowboys' offense. Similar to other teams around the league not respecting the Redskins' offense and blitzing us, we did the same thing to the Dallas Cowboys. We didn't respect Dak Prescott. We respected Zeke Elliott. You could tell because we had 8, sometimes 9 in the box to stop that man, and that's exactly what we did. You finally saw, and you know, I've been one of the biggest detractors of the Redskins drafting Daron Payne. Well, the actual product of what the Redskins did in the last 2 drafts finally paid off. Huge dividends in this particular game with both Allen and Payne doing work. Don't forget about Ioannidis. A lot of people like to leave Ioannidis out of the discussion when they're talking about Redskin defensive linemen that have been putting in work this season. Ioannidis is right there with Payne and with Jonathan Allen, but I thought the defensive line, Payne and Allen in particular, were outstanding in this game. A lot of interior pressure, a lot of them getting off of blocks, making plays, blowing up run plays, and getting to Ezekiel Elliott or throwing him off of his natural track and course and forcing him to bounce runs. I also thought Zach Brown was outstanding in the run game. He was a nuisance in this game. He was all over Zeke Elliott in that Cowboys run game, was in the backfield quite a bit. He was a huge factor in the Redskins really doing some work against this Cowboys rush offense. And I told you, if we could limit Zeke Elliott on the ground, and I didn't think we were going to have that much success to the tune of 15 carries, 34 yards, in his second worst outing of his career. I just thought we needed to slow him down somewhere in the 50s, maybe the 60s. I'd have been perfectly content with that. But to shut him down the way that we did and sell out for run, and like Tony Romo said during the telecast, we sold out for the run, but we didn't do it at the expense of our pass defense. We weren't outside of where we were supposed to be. Guys stayed at home. Usually the Cowboys kill us with bootlegs. They didn't do that in this game. I would have run more boots if I were the Cowboys. I would have run more screens if I were the Cowboys. But in any event, the Redskins were able to stop the run. And that allowed them to be aggressive on 3rd and long and come after him. And when they didn't come after Dak, they were able to get pressure with just 4. You got to give credit. And I know some of you have been killing Preston Smith. I'm not one of those guys that kills Preston Smith. I know who Preston Smith is. And I think that Preston Smith is a really quality football player. He's not elite. We don't have any elite pass rushers. But on this particular day, Preston Smith looked elite. I'm not going to lie to you. He gave Tyron Smith all that he could handle and then some. He was problematic, whether he was getting held, whether he was beating him. And there were a couple of times he got to Dak and hit him as he was throwing the football, and it altered the throw and forced an incompletion. So whether he was forcing a holding penalty or he was getting to Dak, he was a problem on this day, was Preston Smith. Same can be said for the showstopper, Ryan Kerrigan. He had 2 sacks on the day, arguably the biggest play in the game with the strip sack for his fumble. Kerrigan was outstanding in this game, and he was also great against the run. He manhandled right tackle La'el Collins for the vast majority of the day. Same could be said for some of the Redskins backups who came in. Our second string pass rushers also had an impact on this game. Pernell McPhee drew a holding penalty from La'el Collins as he was hogtied on one play. Also, Ryan Anderson, who we kill all the time as a guy that doesn't get pressure on it. He looks a little bit more spry. He looks a little bit more explosive this season. Still not an elite pass rusher, but I thought he did some really good things throughout the course of this game as well. He had a crucial sack, or I guess, I don't want to call it a sack. Dak slipped on a play that he would have gotten a first down on had he not slipped. But anyway, Ryan Anderson was able to get to him, tag him down, and prevent Dak Prescott from getting the first down and forcing the Cowboys staff to settle for a field goal. So I thought the defensive line and the backers all played well. Mason Foster had a strong game up front. I thought the front 7 for the Redskins were exceptional in this game and really controlling how this game went, especially stopping the run and forcing. And they blitzed a ton. And give Greg Minuski credit. I've been hypercritical of him this season for not blitzing enough. And sometimes when you don't trust your back end to hold up, you can't be as aggressive as you want to be. And surprisingly enough, with the injury to Dunny in this game, and not having him in the secondary and having a rookie and Greg Stroman out there, he still felt confident enough. And again, this speaks volumes about the lack of explosiveness by the Cowboys offense, especially with no Tavon Austin in this game. We didn't respect them at all, and Minuski blitzed the draws off of the Cowboys, and it benefited us getting pressure and speeding up his internal clock in this football game. I thought the defense made some great plays. Wouldn't it have been nice if that Josh Norman strip of Allen Hurns resulted in a recovery for the Redskins? That would have sealed this game, and we would not have had to sweat it out. But as fate would have it, the ball bounced right back to him, and they were able to recover and ultimately go down and score a touchdown to cut it to 3. But nonetheless, outside of the Stroman double move where he bit down on the double move by Michael Gallup, I thought the Redskins were outstanding on defense. They didn't give up any major big plays. And even the drive at the end of the game for the touchdown, they made the Cowboys work for that touchdown. They had a 4th down, a couple of crucial 3rd downs, and they just made plays. You just got to tip your cap to the Cowboys for making plays. But nonetheless, DJ Swearinger was outstanding. I talked about that on the R3. His energy to start the game was infectious, and I thought that kind of set the tone for what the Redskins would be defensively on the day. So he's the defensive leader of this football team, and you saw it on full display in this game, especially in the first quarter of this game versus the Cowboys. You go to the offensive side of the football, I thought the Redskins did some good things on the ground. The offensive line, let's start there. They were intact. You had a guy that a lot of Redskins fans love to kill and criticize all the time in Sean Laval. He was back from an injury, and I thought his presence on the offensive line made all the difference in the world. We went up against one of the best defensive lines in all of football in the Dallas Cowboys. Say what you want about the Dallas Cowboys. They can get after the quarterback. We've had trouble picking up twists and stunts. Don't think the Cowboys weren't aware of that. Don't think that they didn't try to run some TE games and some stunts and some twists. Don't think that they didn't try to confuse our offensive line. But when you have guys on the field that are comfortable with one another, that understand the communication and know what the other guy is going to do, it makes a lot of those things so much easier to pass off. And so you didn't see the offensive line breakdowns that we've seen in the past weeks that led to sacks and quick pressures. You didn't see guys getting scot-free through to Alex Smith and forcing him to have to speed up his progressions. You didn't see a lot of those situations that we saw against New Orleans, that we saw last week against Carolina at times, that we even saw versus Green Bay when we had issues protecting up front. those were non-existent. Why? Because you had your starting 5 offensive linemen on the field, and I thought they were exceptional in pass pro for much of the day. But where they really truly shined was in the run game. They did a tremendous job of moving, again, a very talented and aggressive Dallas front for much of the day. And I love the Redskins gun runs, because what those gun runs do is it spreads a team out. I don't think the Redskins are as good running out of their base personnel. When they go to a 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight end sets, and they identify to the defense that they're running and allow the defense to keep their base personnel on the field, I don't think we're as successful a run team as when we spread you out, put 3 or 4 receivers on the field and 1 tight end or whatever the case may be, and we spread you out, we force you to go into your nickel and your dime, and then we run out of gun. I think we are so successful doing that. Guys have been blocking a lot better this year, and when you go to the gun, guys that are deficient in blocking, like a Jordan Reed and sometimes a Vernon Davis, don't have to do as much. So we've been able to hide some of the deficiencies of some of the players that aren't as good at the blocking game as we would like them to be, and it's helped this run game immensely. Not to mention Adrian Peterson breaking tackles left and right. The first guy never gets this man on the ground. Honestly, as I've said before, and I said on the R3, I don't know where we would be without AD this season. He has been the true difference maker on offense for the Redskins. I don't know how much longer he can keep it up without the assistance of, say, a Chris Thompson to take off some of the load. But he's been extraordinary for this Redskins football team, and we got to keep the run game going if we're going to have success because of the struggles of the pass game. Speaking of which, we got to get Jordan Reed the football more. He only had 4 targets in this game, only had 2 grabs. They were both impactful catches, but he needs more targets. He needs more opportunities. I got to watch the film to see if the Cowboys did anything extravagant to take him away. Did they double team him? Because you got to know that Jordan Reed most weeks are going to be the focal point of teams' defense in terms of the passing game. If they're going to take away a guy in the passing game, it's most likely going to be 86. So I got to see if Jay Reed was taken away or if Alex Smith just didn't get that man the football. Nonetheless, Josh Doctson, the Doc was definitely in the building in this game. He led the Redskins with the most targets in this football game with 6. And he had 3 grabs in this game. And he was very impactful. And he actually won on a deep ball right before halftime. And if Alex Smith hits him in stride, he probably scores on that play. If he doesn't score, he's inside the Cowboys' 10-yard line with about 4 or 5 seconds left on the clock, which would lead to a field goal or one shot at the end zone, depending on what Jay Gruden decided to do in that situation. Either way, he had his best game of the season by far. And I'm looking for him to build off of this performance. Maybe a little bit of rapport was built between him and Alex Smith. Maybe some trust gained in this game. I still want to see Josh Doctson get better at the 50-50 ball. Alex Smith has to throw better 50-50 balls. But I'd like to see him time up his jumps. I think he jumps a little too soon for these 50-50 balls. There was one down the sideline right before the half that I thought he jumped too soon. He might have been able to draw a pass interference penalty if he would have just tried to come back for it a little bit. Instead, he jumped and tried to leap over the defender, and so the defender who was face guarding didn't get called for PI because Doctson didn't do a good enough job of coming back to the football. Nonetheless, the Doctson had a strong game. Not enough Vernon Davis in this past week's game. He's also a difference maker for this offense. When you don't have Paul Richardson, when you don't have Jamison Crowder, when you don't have a guy like Chris Thompson, you have to utilize the weaponry that you do have. Vernon Davis, one of those guys, and I thought that we didn't get him enough touches in this football game either. That being said, let's get to the elephant in the room on the offensive side of the football, which is Alex Smith. Let's first say this. Alex Smith, he does some good things. I don't want to make this out to be a witch hunt and make it seem like Alex Smith hasn't brought any value to this football team. I can tell you this much. With the way Alex Smith protects the football, it's going to allow us to be in football games week in and week out. He's part of the reason we're 4-2 right now. All right. If Alex Smith would have turned the football over in any of the last 2 games, we lose. Those games were that close. One turnover, one mistake on the offensive side of the football might have been costly enough to cost us either one of the last 2 victories at home versus Carolina and Dallas. So his ability to take care of the football, yes, he is overly cautious at times, but it's his ability to take care of the football that allows the Redskins to have a chance to win these close ball games. So credit must be given to Alex Smith for protecting the football. Hell, had a snap go off his shoulder. He was aware enough to have that snap go off his shoulder, not panic, and get on that football. A lesser quarterback may have panicked in that situation, and that could have turned into a turnover in a short field for Dallas, who is struggling on the day. So give Alex Smith credit for taking care of the football. That's something he's done throughout his career and continues to do for the Redskins. That being said, he made some good throws. The throws to Doxson up the seam, those were some gorgeous throws. There was a throw to Michael Floyd right before the half. Beautiful throw over the middle of the football field. There was a throw to Jordan Reed on play action fake, wide open over the middle field. Nice throw in the pocket. He stepped up, made a nice delivery there. He did some solid things in this game, extended some plays with his legs. He did some solid things. Again, there's a third down to Capri Bibbs on a crucial third down late in the game where Bibbs comes out, looks like he's going to protect in the pass game, and then zips out into the flats. And Smith is able to vacate the pocket, find Bibbs, hit him in stride, and allow Bibbs to pick up the first down. So Smith did some good things in this game, but the bad really outweighs the good because those were so noticeable in a game that ended up being a 3-point contest that could have been a lot more for the Redskins. Those mistakes that we saw Smith make were so identifiable and so easy to see on the TV copy. So when it's that egregious, you know people are going to have a problem with it. Obviously, the biggest one that sticks out is the miss in the end zone to Jeremy Sprinkle. Sprinkle me, bitch. Sprinkle me. You can't miss that throw. It's a beautiful play call by Jay Gruden to set the Cowboys up. We ran the football to get down there. They're looking for run. They sell out on run. Sprinkle is wide open in the back of the end zone. All Smith has to do is put a little air on it, back pylon. It's an easy touchdown. Cowboys aren't going to be able to get there in time to make a play. Instead, he zings the football, throws it out wide, and he misses his intended target. And those opportunities you can't afford to miss. And the Redskins ultimately had to settle for a field goal. That's a 4-point swing. That's the kind of play that could lose you a game down the road. And so Alex has got to make that throw. There's another throw. It might have even been on that same possession where he doesn't even give his receivers a chance. He panics because of pressure, and I don't even think the pressure was that imminent, but he felt pressure, and that's a problem onto itself. But nonetheless, he delivered the football extremely high, almost as if he just abandoned the play, threw the football out of the back of the end zone. Yet Mo Harris going across the front of the goal line at the 2-yard line on an underneath shallow cross. I'd love him to give Mo Harris a chance to catch that football, maybe outrun Jeff Heath. If he doesn't outrun Heath, maybe stiff arm him and be able to extend that 6'3", 6'4" frame and get it over the goal line and score a touchdown. But you got to give your guys a chance to make plays. You can't play scared, especially when you get in the red zone. And so that was a missed opportunity. The missed throw to Doxson before the half, I got to have that one. You can't miss that throw. A high throw, and I know the wind had an impact on some of these throws, particularly the Doxson throw before half, and even the Michael Floyd throw on the sidelines that would have been a nice chunk play that would have gotten us into field goal range, potentially. That was a little high. Maybe the wind got a hold of it. I can't say for sure. Romo made it seem as if the wind may have gotten a hold of that and the Doxson throw. I still need Alex Smith to make those throws. I need him to hit those throws. Those are ones you can't afford to miss. And then the biggest play of the game at the end, him going out of bounds, that's a boneheaded decision. And he tried to clean it up during the press conference on the post-game presser when he talked about, wanting to try to get the first down. I understand where he was coming from, but at the end of the day, your job is to make sure you do whatever is in the best interest of the team. You weren't going to outrun 4 Cowboy defenders to the sticks. You didn't have the angle. You have to go down inbounds and force the Cowboys to use their third and final timeout. You didn't do that, and so that was an epic fail on the part of Alex Smith. He did not have a strong game, and again, if not for this defense standing up and special teams being extraordinary in this game, we don't win this game because Alex Smith missed a number of opportunities throughout this football game. And one last thing, Jay Gruden, I thought, called a whale of a ball game. He stuck with the run. He called plays. The screen early on to Capri Bibbs for the touchdown was a brilliant call. I thought he set up the Cowboys all day long. There were opportunities, and as we talked about, Alex Smith just simply missed on a lot of them. But for all the good that Jay did, I even thought that the challenge was a good one. I love the fact that Jay punted. There was a play, I don't know if you guys remember, in the third quarter, a 4th and 2 after Alex Smith had checked the football down. I believe it was to Capri Bibbs. Bibbs ends up getting out of bounds at around the 48-yard line, 2 yards short of the sticks. And we were right around midfield, and Alex Smith is looking over at the sidelines like he wanted to go for it. And I think Jay for a second hesitated because he wanted to go for it himself. I said, Jay, it ain't shit to think about here, bro. You better punt this goddamn football. This ain't the game for you to be trying to have an ego and trying to be special. Punt the football. The defense is playing their ass off. Let's win this football game playing smart. And I think Jay hesitated for a second, and then he realized, what am I thinking about? What am I doing? Let's punt this football. And so Jay, I thought he did a good job of managing the game. The one time I thought there were 2 instances where I thought Jay dropped the ball. The third down run by Adrian Peterson when the play clock was running down and the Redskins didn't get the play in fast enough. They needed to call timeout there. And you know, I'm a big proponent of not wasting second half timeouts. But in that instance, when you have a chance to score a touchdown in a game that you see isn't going to have a bunch of points being scored, it's 10-7 at that juncture of the game. You got a chance to go up 17-7. You can't afford to then rush the play and have everything be haywire, helter-skelter. Vernon Davis ends up getting blown up. He doesn't get to the block in time. If he's able to get to that kickout block and get to DeMarcus Lawrence, Adrian Peterson walks into the end zone, but because the play was so scatterbrained, Vernon Davis didn't get over there in time. Adrian Peterson was off his key. He didn't kind of slow play it enough to allow the play to develop. And what you got was just a mess of a play where he tries to lateral the football. He was already down, but it was just a mess. Jay needed to call a timeout there. We were discombobulated. A timeout was supposed to be spent there, and maybe gather your thoughts and see if you can't get the football in the end zone. And I hate the idea of the Redskins running out of gun at the 1. This is when you're supposed to bring Ryan Anderson in, bring in your biggest package you got, and you shove it down their throat, or you go quarterback sneak. I hated the gun run from the 1, but that's nor here nor there. The biggest ball dropping done in this game by Jay Gruden was the final drive of the game. I was fine with the first down run. I don't mind first down run. The second down play, though, that was supposed to be your play action fake. That was supposed to be your bootleg there. That was the opportunity because the Cowboys were going to sell out. That was your opportunity to send Vernon Davis across the formation, hit him in the flats, and see if you can't pick up the first down and end the game. In that situation, you've got to try and end the game. You've got to be aggressive more than you've been throughout the course of this game. You got a chance to end it on offense. You have to take advantage of that opportunity. I don't think Jay Gruden did his team a service by pretty much going with a very passive-aggressive approach of run, and then on 3rd and long trying to pass it then when the Cowboys know it's an obvious passing situation. But outside of that, I thought Gruden had a solid day as Redskins head coach. So it was a fun game. One that I enjoyed watching thoroughly, especially being that we got the dub. But there's one more thing I want to do before we get to the goal portion of this Bow and Go, and it's a new segment that I have, and it's called Nitpicking. And so I need to nitpick a couple of things that I saw from this game with the Cowboys before we move on to Week 8 and the Giants. Came through picking, nitpick. Came through picking, nitpick. So here are my nitpicks from this game. Number 1, Greg Stroman. Hey, Stro, please don't fair catch the football when you've got 8 yards of real estate between you and the nearest defender. Do me a favor. Be a playmaker, bruh. Make up for giving up a touchdown right before half. Do something on special teams. You had a nice return versus Carolina. I'd like to see more of that. Don't fair catch the ball when nobody's around. Nitpick number 2. Capri Bibbs and Michael Floyd. Catch the damn football, guys. Please. Capri Bibbs with a drop on the second possession of the game after DJ Swearinger forced a fumble on quarterback sneak of Dak Prescott. We've got great field position in Cowboys territory. We go backwards with the penalty. It's 2nd and long. Alex Smith is just trying to get the Redskins back into a respectable 3rd down situation. He hits Capri Bibbs on what would be about a 9-yard gain and set up about a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. Instead, he drops the goddamn football. That's where you miss Chris Thompson. Catch the damn football. And Michael Floyd, my God, a beautiful Hail Mary hits you right between the 1 and the 7. Catch the damn ball. I know it's not the easiest because it's a scrum down there, but that football couldn't have hit you in a better spot. Catch the damn ball. My God, that was a beautiful Hail Mary. Nonetheless, nitpick number 3. If you're a blitzing linebacker like JHC was late in the ball game, you getting a free shot. And again, this was another beautifully executed and schemed up blitz by Greg Minuski. And Tony Romo called it. He said, hey, if I'm the Redskins, I'm coming with this guy off the slot right here. And it just happened to be Josh Harvey Clemens. You get a free hit at the quarterback, at Dak Prescott. Don't miss. We're on the final possession of the game. You get that sack to start off the possession. Now it's 2nd and 18. We got him right where we want him. Don't miss the goddamn sack, man. Come on. Make the play. So that was another nitpick for me. Make the goddamn play. And I've got another nitpick. And I forgot what it was. It's about to come across the screen though, because I think I got one more nitpick. And yes, here it is. Mo Harris, 3rd and 2. Bruh, he caught the football on a 2nd and 10. Alex Smith hit him on a comeback. If he just backs up as he catches the football, it's a 1st down. He'll back into contact, but it'll be a 1st down. Instead, Mo Harris does a full circle backwards and then falls down and creates a 3rd and 2. Bruh, don't do that. You created a 3rd and 2, and Capri Bibbs ends up getting stopped by Sean Lee on a speed option outside, and we got to punt the damn football late in the game when we had a chance to burn more clock and really put together a drive to put this game out of reach. Don't do that. Don't fall down. Don't come backwards. Fall forwards. Those are my nitpicks from this game. Redskins have to be better, but we got the dub. And I must say this, for those of you in the know, in the DC area, or follow this team very closely, you know that one of the Redskins beat reporters, Rich Tandler, passed away last week from a sudden illness. I don't know what happened. A lot hasn't been disclosed, but it came out of nowhere. And Rich was a pretty cool dude when you watch him and listen to him talk. And I thought it was Rich Tandler that took that football and hit it into the goalpost. So, hey, Rich, we appreciate you, bruh, and you will be missed. May you rest in peace. And I will say this as well. That was not a snap infraction, but I told you last week I could care less how he got it. I told you I could care less if it was a bad call. Remember I said that during the final prediction for the game and the final countdown? I said I could care less how we get it. I just want it. I said I didn't care if it was a bad call. We got a gift. If that kick was from 47 or 42, it was good. But that snap infraction made it 52, and that was all we needed for Rich to take that football in flight and move it over to that goalpost and give us the dub. But now we go from nitpicking to the go portion of the show, and we get ready for the New York Giants. We move on to the goal of the Week 8 matchup in the Meadowlands versus the New York Giants. And this is a trap game if I've ever seen one. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe of the Redskins being great and this team not being able to do any wrong. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. As a Redskins fan, I've been preconditioned to think the worst. And this is just the type of game that we feel like we've kind of crossed over one bridge, and we think that we've finally gotten to a point now where some consistency can start to be had, and then we'll have a dud in the Meadowlands, a place that has been a house of horrors for the Redskins over the last decade or so. We'll go to New York, and we'll lose to a 1-6 Giants football team. Like, I've got a really bad feeling about this game. I don't like this spot right now for the Redskins, but I think we're a good enough team, and the Giants are in such bad shape that we should be able to get the dub here. But this is a scary game for me because I hope the players understand that they can't afford to let their guard down. The Giants are a dangerous team. If you ask me, top to bottom, the Giants are the most talented team in the NFC East. I know that sounds crazy with the Philadelphia Eagles lying in the weeds, but when I look at that Giants offense with Odell Beckham Jr., shame on you if you step toot the old dirty Beckham. And I look at Sterling Shepard, and I look at Evan Ingram, and I look at Saquon Barkley. You look at all of those guys and all of what they bring to the table. They're dynamic and explosive. And only thing holding them back on the offensive side of the football is the quarterback and the offensive line. And I know those are two huge components, and you can't go without those things, but they got so much talent. If they could just get the football to those guys, they're dangerous. And so that scares me because we give up at least one big play a game, it seems like. We've got one boo-boo in the secondary every game that allows a team to get a freebie. And Odell Beckham Jr. is just the type of guy that would take full advantage of a double move. And don't think that other teams aren't watching our guys bite on double moves and aren't going to look to try to take advantage of it. And Odell Beckham Jr. broke off one of the Falcons' corners on a double move and got wide open on Monday night. So I fully expect them to try to take advantage of our corners. And I don't know if Quentin Dunbar is going to play in week number 8. That's another problem that we'll discuss here in a second. But I can tell you this much. The Giants have talent on offense, and the Giants are very talented defensively. They got after Matt Ryan, a team that was scoring over 30 points a game, and the Falcons was reduced to 23 points in that game, and they struggled to score, and they struggled to move the football at times versus this Giants defense. And so I'm looking at the Giants as a defensive team, and I think every team in the NFC East, for the first time in a long time, actually pretty good on the defensive side of the football. That goes for the Giants as well. So this is not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. I hope the fellas understand what's in front of them and handle the task at hand, and they don't let their guards down thinking that we got a 1-6 sleeping Giants football team that's just going to show up and allow us to stomp a mud hole in them. They got to understand that the Giants want to see us come back to earth. The Giants misery loves company. They're 1-6. They'd love nothing more than to drag us down with them. So we've got to go to New York, and this is a huge game from the standpoint of it's a division game, and it may come down to best division record when it's all said and done to who wins this division. We can't afford, if you're going to win this division this year, you can't afford to lose to the Giants. I'm sorry. As much talent as the Giants have, if you want to win this division, you've got to sweep the Giants. And if we're going to sweep the Giants, it starts by beating them in week 8 at the Meadowlands. If we're going to win this division, you got to beat the Giants, and you got to beat them twice this season. They're not good enough to win games. And so we've got to take care of business. And this is a big game, and the same rules apply. We got to run the football. We got to take care of the ball. We can't have any turnovers. I thought we had some costly penalties for the second week in a row, but we didn't have a bunch of them. But we did have some penalties that killed some plays. A nice Adrian Peterson run had a holding penalty on that. We had some plays that were negated by penalties. So we've got to steer clear of the hurtful penalties. But for the most part, we've done a great job of steering clear of mistakes. We've only given the football away 5 times this year. That's second fewest in the league. So we're doing a great job. And that comes with Alex Smith. That's a part of the Alex Smith package when you take care of the football. And so we've got to continue to do that. Got to continue to generate turnovers. We've been one of the better teams in the league. We've got one of the better plus minuses in the league when it comes to turnovers and the turnover margin. We don't turn it over, and we generate 1 to 3 turnovers every single week. That's a testament to this defense, and it's a testament to our offense taking care of the football. Special teams has been outstanding in that department as well. So we've got to continue to win special teams. We did a great job the last 2 weeks of winning special teams. Tressway has been an unsung hero, pinning the opposition deep in their own territory. We've had great punt coverage as well. Don't want to leave those guys out for getting down there, making solid tackles. So, and I think if we can continue in the kicking game with D-Hop and there was a nice snap or hold on a high snap by Tressway, getting it down on a field goal attempt or extra point, excuse me, when it was 19-10. That was a high snap. Tressway gets it down, and D-Hop able to put it through the upright. So the whole operation, special teams-wise, has been phenomenal of late, and we need to keep it that way. And we got to get to Eli Manning, but first and foremost, we have to stop Saquon Barkley. If we're going to win this game, we got to stop Saquon Barkley. We can't allow him to have the explosive plays that change games. We can't allow him to have the type of game he had against the Eagles 2 weeks ago. He needs to have the kind of game he had the other night versus the Atlanta Falcons, where he was a guy that they looked to get the football to, but there weren't many explosive plays by Barkley in that game. If he has a game like he had against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, we are in trouble, because that's going to lead to points for the Giants, and they struggle to score. We can't give up explosive plays. We got to make them earn everything they get, because they've been an offense that has struggled with consistency. They may have one nice play or two nice plays, but if you make them go 13 plays, they're going to F it up at some point. So we've got to do a good job of limiting the explosive plays. Can't allow Odell Beckham to have a 55-yard touchdown grab. We can't allow Saquon Barkley to have a 61-yard touchdown run or a 57-yard catch out of the backfield on the screen for a touchdown. We have to make sure we make the Giants earn everything they get. If we stop the run, it will allow us, just like in Week 7 versus the Cowboys, it will allow us to get after Eli Manning. We all know Eli is scared back there. If we could get to Eli, rattle his cage early, we would have done everything we needed to do to put ourselves in a position to be 5-2 after Week 8 with this Giants football team. Let me mention injuries before we go to the final countdown. We've got a number of injuries. You've got Chris Thompson. You've got Quentin Dunbar. You've got you've got Paul Richardson. You've got Jamison Crowder. And now Fabian Moreau is added to that list. I don't know who's going to play, but I can tell you this much. Our secondary is extremely banged up right now. I would love nothing more than to see a guy like Quentin Dunbar come back for this game. We're going to need him. If Odell Beckham Jr. is able to get his hands on Greg Stroman, that could get ugly very quickly. So I hope that we get Dunny back. I'd love to see, I'd love to see us get Fabian Moreau back too, because he's been exceptional in the slot for us as well. And I know we're getting to the point of the season now where guys are able to come off the pup, and I don't know where the Auburn corner is. Remember, he injured himself in the preseason or in training camp. I'd love to see him come back and give us what he was giving us last year. I think he's got some talent as well. So it's interesting to see what happens with the Redskins over the next couple of days, who's in, who's out, and what they decide to do with some roster moves. But we need some of those guys back. Chris Thompson, I can't wait to get him back. Same could be said for Dunny. I think that's a really, really big piece. We need Quentin Dunbar out on the football field, especially for this game versus a very explosive Giants offense. That takes us to the final countdown in week number 8. It's the final outcome. Whoa, yeah. So the final outcome of this game is one that I think it scares me, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I told you I'm a little uneasy about this football game, but I have faith in the fellas that they know the task at hand. I hope Jay Gruden is beating into their skulls that this Giants team, throw the record out of the window, albeit they're 1-6, they're a very dangerous football team that if we sleep on them, they will wake us up with an L. And this is a loss you can ill afford to have. You're playing such good football. You're trying to string together consistency here. A win here gets you to 5-2. And no telling what's going to happen with the other teams in the division. The Cowboys are on a bye week. The Eagles going across the pond to take on the Jaguars. No telling what happens with them there. Just take care of business, man. And I've always said this. I don't care what anybody else is doing. If we take care of us, we'll be just fine. And this is one of those situations where we just need to take care of business, take care of us, and everything will sort itself out. This is a spot that makes me extremely nervous. You know how I feel about the Giants. The one team in the division that scares me to no end is this Giants football team. And despite the record, they scare the bejesus out of me. Hell, they were trash last year, and they still almost beat us on Thanksgiving. We were trash at that time as well, but it just goes to show you that the records don't matter when family business is being conducted. And so, with that being said, here's my outcome for the game. It's going to be close. We're not in a position to blow anybody out. That's not what we do. That's not our MO. That's not how we operate with Alex Smith at quarterback. And I'm telling you, Alex Smith can be and will be better eventually. I have confidence that he'll be better. He's played such bad football over the last 4 weeks or so that I know it's going to get better. And I've seen Alex Smith play better. And the mistakes that he's making, they're correctable mistakes. It's not like this guy is making mistakes that you look at and say, there's no fixing this, we're screwed. There are mistakes that are easily correctable, but it's a mental thing. He's got to settle down, and if the line starts to protect him better, I think he will start to trust what's in front of him. He'll see things. He'll make better decisions. He'll make better throws, and I think the game will slow down for him. And remember, he's still trying to grasp this offense with Jay Gruden, and they're still trying to figure out each other. Things will get better with Alex Smith, but this is not the week that those things will get that much better. It'll be a low-scoring affair, similar to what I said last week, but I don't expect the Giants to make it to 20. Again, like I said with the Cowboys, if the Giants make it to 20, we're in trouble, and we may not win the football game because the Giants are really good defensively. Don't sleep on the Giants, but they just traded Eli Apple to the New Orleans Saints. I don't know what that means for their secondary, but I can tell you this much. If we're able to take advantage of some opportunities like the Falcons did, when they blitz, come out with all-out pressure, and you hit them and you catch them in a blitz, we got to make the plays that can change this game. If Eli decides to throw one up for grabs or he decides to fumble, we've got to make a play and recover the football or pick it off. We got opportunities. We got to take advantage of those opportunities. We haven't done that as well over the last 2 weeks. We've forced turnovers, had great field position, and gotten nothing out of some of these turnovers. We've got to take advantage of the opposition's mistakes better. Hopefully this is a week we'll be able to do that. I'm your man, Louie T. Remember, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Week 7 was great. We needed that as a fan base. The rivalry is officially back on. They made a move because of us, because of what we did to them. They beat us in week number 7. They probably don't trade for Amari Cooper, but because we beat them, they decided the receiver position needs a boost. And so they go out and trade for Amari Cooper. I don't give a shit. But I would like to ask you this before I go. Do you think we should have made a move before the trade deadline? And the trade deadline isn't up until next Wednesday, the 30th of October. But still, do you think the Redskins should make a trade deadline move? Or excuse me, I think it's next Tuesday. Or is it next? Yeah, next Tuesday, the 30th, is the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken. So do you think the Redskins should make a move? And if so, what is the move? And be realistic here. Let's not throw out random stuff like, hey, we should go get Patrick Peterson. That's not realistic. We're not going to give up a first-round pick for Patrick Peterson. We're fine at the cornerback position. We just have some injuries, but you don't need to go out and spend a first-round pick. But if you have a guy in mind and compensation in mind, who is that guy? Do you think we should have went after Amari Cooper? Who is a player out there that is potentially on the trading block that you think the Redskins maybe should go after? I'd love to hear your comments on that. And with that being said, I am out of here. Hope you enjoyed this show, and I will see you guys on Sunday, hopefully after a Redskins victory versus the New York Giants. See you guys next time.
Louie T Network.